Open up the meeting. I ask you to stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ready? All right. Good evening, everybody. Today is December 9th, 2019 at 6 p.m. We're here in the Rutland Town School Library for the Rutland Town School Board's monthly meeting. Looks like we have 3 members present tonight. Any changes, additions to the agenda?
Yes, we would like to move the superintendent report to after the approval of the agenda, and Lisa, actually it's going to be the assistant superintendent report tonight, and Lisa has a quick report. And then after that, if we can move the budget to after Lisa, so maybe the first 2 things on the agenda will be the assistant super report and the budget.
Okay. Someone want to make that motion subject to the changes?
So moved.
Second.
Move second. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Perfect. Lisa?
Yeah. Just kind of, if you would just take one and pass them around. So I really just wanted to come inform everyone that we are launching a proficiency-based grade reporting task force. And this is just a copy of the work plan that we've laid out. You know, it's a rough working draft for how that group will move through their work. But I mean, this group in particular has had a lot of conversation, but also at some of our other boards as well, about how we're reporting out on proficiency-based grading and wanting to make sure that we have really good systems in place that, first and foremost, allow our students and their teachers to really try and meet each student's needs, but also are able to be good communication pieces to families so that they can understand the progress of their students, and equally importantly, be good communication pieces for competitive secondary or post-secondary programs when our students are applying. So we're going to have a task force, a small group that gets together, kind of lean and mean, and move us through some community focus groups and also school-based surveys, where in particular we'll do the on-site focus groups for schools like Rutland Town and the Corey Valley High Schools, where students are going on to additional programs after those schools. And then we'll also do surveys in the other elementary schools that are not graduating students to programs that need competitive kind of information in terms of transcripts. But everybody will get a chance to be participants in terms of that survey. And if we find that we need to do groups in the elementary schools, then we'll do those as well. But right now we're just planning on the secondary schools.
Well, 7 through 12.
7 through 12, yes. Yes.
So I would just ask here, how come not 5th through 12? The only reason is that we've now encompassed 5th in middle school.
Right.
It used to be 6th, 7th, and 8th. Now it's 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. Why would it just be 7th and 8th? Why not just do it 6th through 7th?
We'll be
or
doing a
8th?
focus group here at Rutland Town, so, you know,
Yep.
there's no restriction on who can be part of that. It doesn't matter what grade your student's in. But I mean, the schools that have students in grades 7 through 12.
I got the page too. So.
So if there, really the feedback piece that I'd love is just if there's anything specific that you would like that task force to take under advisement or into consideration right from the beginning of their process, you can either let me know tonight, or you can also email me or schedule a call or meeting with me, and I'm happy to hear if you have additional things that you want to make sure that the committee consider as they begin their work.
So just a question for the other board members. Lisa, you didn't know this. I was thinking about holding a vote on the issue come February, get past January, and then we confront the grading issue in February. Now that I see this laid out, and obviously that goes past February, which means given well, to be quite honest with you, we may be able to in May, say the feedback comes back to go to the 100-point scale. That's what I'm in favor of. It's no secret. But say it comes back in May, we'd still have time to adjust things for the following year, or would that not leave us enough time for adjustment next year?
It depends on how radically we would want to transform what schools are doing, but obviously we need to make a rollout plan if we were going to do something substantially different.
So for the
But
principals, I guess the principal's office real quick though, if we were to switch to a 100-point scale at the middle of May, would that be anything you guys could accomplish by September, after the summer? Or is that gonna be too soon? Or that, I'm just looking at timing issues here and,
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, a lot of questions are around the grading platform as well.
whether,
And I would just,
programming.
yeah, I would just hope that if we move forward, that we are all doing the same.
Yes, and that's one of my goals also, that I really want this task force to be SU-wide and to look at this issue from an SU level so that we can try to move all of our schools and continue that unification work of, becoming GRCSU. And, it's wrestling with a meaty topic and it's something that's really important for our students and our schools. So, however, if we can get everyone on the same page, I think that would be really, really helpful for all of us in terms of professional development, infrastructure, support, whatever we need to do to make any shifts if we decide that we want to do that.
yep.
And some things, it could be as simple as I know we've talked about this before, but depending on the recommendations and what comes from this, it could be as simple as a conversion table, or it could be as complicated as a shift in practice. So depending on the outcome would depend on kind of the time frame for what it would take to roll that out.
Yep.
I realize we have the holidays, but it's actually not until February that you even hold your focus groups. It's not gonna take it that long to get focus groups together.
Well, we want to make sure that we first do a really good job with them and make good use of people's time. So we need to recruit for them, but then we also want to carefully structure them, and we need to design the survey questions for the schools, which I think will take a little bit of time. And as everyone knows, with the holidays, it's tricky to get people together for scheduling for meetings and things. So we just put in enough time that we could do a quality job, and when we get people together, we can have really good activities and questions for them, and that will give us the data that we really want to be able to make these decisions.
Like I think Matt is alluding to, I'm all for this, but again, we're talking another year going past. We've been on this for a year and a half, 2 years.
3 years now.
So it's gonna be a third year, and maybe we can get it next year, probably not. So now we're talking another year. So actually, kids that had come in fifth grade are gonna graduate from here before we decide what we're doing. That's kinda silly.
Yeah, and it's not directed at you
No.
by any means. This is
I've
2
been wrestling
years
with
of.
it for 4 months.
Yep.
You may have been on it for 4 years.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
all
no,
for
no, and
it.
this has been, at least a solid 2 to 3 year goings on from here to the SU and back to the board, and, and it's really, I do want to hear from some of these people out there in the focus groups, because sometimes I worry that what I'm hearing is just the negativity, and I don't often hear the positive things. I mean, that just happens in life, that people let you know when they're upset, but not when they're happy. And so I was worried about that. But one question that I had is, I see it's Proctor High School, West Rutland, and Rutland Town, which are the former Rutland Central schools. Is Poultney right now? Well, Poultney, aren't they at a 100-point scale, or no? They're at a 1 to 4.
See,
Poultney High
there's
School
Poultney
and-
High School and Proctor, P-O
Oh, is
and
that?
P-I.
Oh, okay. So that is
P-O.
Poultney. Are they at a 100-point scale though
They're
right
at a
now?
100-point scale at the high school. The elementary school is at a 4-point rubric.
What's the? And does that encompass the middle school too?
Their middle schools with their high school, 7 through 12.
Okay, so their 7 to 12 is actually on the 100-point scale. Middletown Springs, they only go up to 6, so they would be.
Springs and Wells are both on a 4-point scale.
They're on the full
All
both
all
schools.
of the elementary
All
are.
of the elementary.
Not there, okay. And so that would. Does Wells have a middle school or no? That's
No,
okay.
Wells and Middletown only go through 6th grade, just like
6th
Proctor
grade, and then they go over
Elementary.
to Poultney generally.
No, well, they tuition,
Or they tuition,
they have
but
choice,
yep, they have this.
just like Rutland Town.
Okay. So, I mean, that's my only hesitancy. I mean, I am happy about holding the focus groups because we may get a better sampling of what people want. But I have a number of parents saying to me, when are we going to put an end to this 1 to 4 stuff? It's nonsense. When is this going to end? When's it going to stop? And to be quite honest with you, I've asked for this for a long time. And I just got to the point that I picked February and said, let's hold a vote on it. And I was asking you guys to get back to me with principal feedback, but not necessarily the focus group. So that's why I'm looking to the other board members. I like it. I'm just worried that we're kicking the can down the road for another year or two, but
But could we hear about this by the March SU meeting?
Yeah, I can
Based
certainly
on-
share where we're at and preliminary feedback.
I mean, it should be
At that time.
pretty close to.
Yeah, we should have most of them they should be finished.
I mean,
at
you're
that
in the
point.
reflection period.
Yep.
You will have already compiled the focus group stuff, which is kind of what we would
Yeah, they're
Yep.
working in the
to
process
hear
of
a
doing
lot of,
so.
right?
So do you guys want to hear, well, the only reason I say that is because when we talked last time, it was going to be, I think, a group of administrators and principals as to how the group, now I'm looking at focus groups, community, parents being pulled, which is going to obviously add in a lot of time. Where'd that change come from?
I think, again, we'll get a more authentic sense. There are multiple audiences here, and this is what makes grade reporting so complex of an issue, that, your students need the information for certain things, your teachers need the information for certain things, your parents need the information for certain things, your sending schools need the information for certain things, and trying to create one tool that meets the needs of all of those constituencies is very complicated.
Yep.
And you have to compromise some things along the way if you want a simple product that doesn't take too much teacher time to complete and process. So that's why getting feedback from all those groups. I mean, our administrators obviously will have voice in this process as well, and will serve on the task force that runs this group. But we want to kind of really broaden it and make sure that we understand the issue clearly and from all sides and all perspectives.
And there was feedback that we got. In fact, some of it was from this board about doing a survey.
No, I
and
know,
we
but I
were-
didn't know it was gonna,
Not for this. This was administrators, and what do the administrators think? Because we're on the edge of, honestly, I think just voting. I'm not sure what everyone else is going to do, but
I
I'm in
mean, I
favor
don't
of the
know
100-point
if we
scale.
could go to the 100-point scale while we're doing this. I mean, I don't know, how are the ones that are on the 100-point scale? They must have a
There's
conversion.
only one that's on the 100-point scale.
Pulteney.
Yeah, and that's because they never adopted a proficiency-based assessment, grade reporting system.
So they did proficiency-based learning. They just skipped the
Well,
proficiency-based
they're-
grading,
they're-
which was not in the law.
They're,
Trajectory,
yeah, they're on a
Yeah.
different, they haven't been doing it as long
Mhm.
as everyone else. They just started 2 years ago, actually, when I was here as superintendent last. We started doing the professional development with them around proficiency-based.
Mhm.
So, they have not developed their system as fully as the other schools.
Well, I
I
heard
mean-
there was some resistance because they were testing higher than all of us too, which is interesting. And so
Well,
I
it's
don't know
all
if
in
that's
the
true, but it
conversion,
seems to
probably.
be.
Pulteney Elementary's scores definitely are competitive compared to the rest of our SU, but they're on the 1.4 scale.
Yeah.
And part of this work plan too is for the high schools, they have to address things like valedictorian and coming together because the 3 high schools are in one district. So, I think it would be best if you let this play out and get a thorough report than try to push it and rush it.
Mhm.
We spent a lot of, Lisa's, I haven't spent as much as Lisa time developing it, so.
Well, I think too, it's, if Rutland Town goes off in one direction, then that also is going to continue to make it really complicated for us to have a unified supervisory union. And if Rutland Town has a grading system, then Rutland Town needs certain professional development, they need certain technical support, they need certain coaching around that system. If that winds up being different than the rest of the supervisory union, then that also creates resource drain, complications, difficulty in us meeting the support needs of multiple schools with multiple systems. I mean, that's why we're trying to go through
No, I
this
agree with
process
that, but
to
I
get
don't,
everybody on
I'll
the
play
same
the
page.
devil's advocate too, though, and say that I have not heard a complaint from anybody about dealing with Pulteney right now. Not on the SU board, because I'm chairing that board as well. No one has come to me about any issues with Pulteney and their 100-point scale and those issues you just raised, correct?
Well, I think Pulteney has been very clear with their board members, like their staff is in the process of wrestling with this issue. They've been talking about it at every PLC meeting that they've had all year this year. They've been reading articles around grading. They've been looking at proficiencies more deeply and how they're reporting them for their students. So I think their staff is really heavily engaged in this issue, and people from their community, I think, know that.
Yep.
And know that, like, similarly, it's just going to take them a little while to sort of look at what they're doing and make sure that it's, moving toward the way that they really want to be.
Let me ask you, is there anybody over in Pulteney that you're aware of that's actually trying to move their grading system to a 1 through 4?
Yes.
There is people over there looking to do
There's
that.
a large group of faculty, actually, that think that it's the best representation for a proficiency-based system. Yeah, mean, it's a change, and like anything else, change is hard for people. But I think that there are pros and cons, you know, on all sides here, and you know, they're just trying to really look at the research and help their staff kind of figure out the best way to get from where they are now to where they want to go. And they know that what they're doing now is not a pure proficiency-based reporting system. And so they're working really hard to, whatever the outcome is going to be, they really want to report out on proficiencies, not just some weighted, complicated grading formula, as has been traditional practice, so.
Well, I'm concerned just because the Commissioner of Education came back and said that we didn't require this 1 to 4, and that was just fairly recently. Now, that's an about face from where they were, but so I'm a little concerned if that's not signaling some change already starting in Montpelier, and, you know, I just
We met
don't,
with
our
the-
concern and Lynn and mine has been that we don't want to keep digging in this hole to then further turn around and just change it anyway. Because if they do it up in Montpelier, everyone's gonna be subject to it anyway. So why not be first and just get it out of the way?
I was at a meeting this morning with the area legislators, and that was a question that was raised, is that there are rumors, and there was one person on the ed committee who said that is untrue. They're not looking at changing the requirements.
Yeah, well, they're not changing any requirements on the proficiency-based learning. The grading is absent from the law. And I hate to say, but my recollection anyway is that we were told it was the law that we had to go to 1 to 4. And that's why this board has been very frustrated. So it's not, certainly not you, but my recollection was, and I was just starting here at the board, but we were told it was the law and we needed to go to 1 to 4. And then after about a year's worth of digging and asking and meetings, and suddenly it became, it's not in the law. This is something, and so the way it came here was inappropriate.
It is not regulatory, but there is guidance from the agency that is written, published guidance around proficiency-based implementation that specifically talks about alignment of your grading system with a proficiency-based system. There's actually a rubric that the agency published that you can use to assess your own system and see if you're meeting what they consider quality criteria. And there's a whole section in it around adapting your grading and reporting system to proficiencies. So
I'm
you know,
just-
I don't have a magic 8 ball. I can't
Yeah.
predict, you know, where that's going to go, but I know the guidance that is in writing that is published by the agency right now very specifically asks for it. And I could share a copy of that with you guys at some point in time too, so you could see it too. But it very specifically talks about what you need to do for grading systems in terms of proficiencies, which require some shifting.
I just am worried about the lack of parental involvement because they don't understand it. The students don't understand. How could I get a 1 when I did blah, blah, blah? And they don't understand where their children really are. So the pressure, be it good or bad, that parents can put on the students to do better, that's kind of been lost because they don't know, they've lost that link. And, you know, I'm just worried, I'm just seeing all these students leaving the school to go to other places, and I don't know if we have a really good picture of where our students are anymore. I mean, our students were always typically, the majority of our students were always at the top of classes no matter what high school they went to. I have no idea anymore, none, because of this
My
mess.
understanding is they're still there. You know, that's been the
Yeah.
reporting back from the principal's office, that each class goes on to either Rutland or other schools, but it's being reported back to you that the students are still ahead a bit.
I think that's the one, Debbie, Matt had asked that we do that every year. So Debbie met with Rutland High School, I know last year, with a group of teachers and
Yep.
asked for
Middle school
feedback.
teachers.
Yeah, on how they were comparing to others.
And they were pleased. They felt that their writing was really good and that they were where they should be or ahead. And mathematically, they were right where they needed to be to jump into the integrated math that they have at Rutland High School. So
So, you know, I think we should go forward with this and hear what the parents have to say. I mean, we're gonna do a survey, do focus groups. It could be a pleasant surprise. It could be a matter of they don't understand, what can we do better to make them understand, or whatever comes out of it, comes out of it. But unless we do it and do it thoroughly, we're not going to really be able to answer those questions.
No, I'm not trying to, I'm just trying to supplement this a bit. I don't,
Yeah, I'm not sure that's what I'm worried about, but I guess maybe we'll take it up at the, you know, either the next meeting or definitely in February. The only reason I'm concerned is we've been through a lot of these things already, and I don't. I'm not so sure that, I would like to know what a focus group would come up with. I'm also worried about who's going to get picked for that, and is my sample correct now? Am I looking at statistical data
and
that's
hopefully
actually
this-
relevant?
The
and-
survey should even some of that out also. And another piece of this that is going to happen is we're going to look at what other systems are doing around the state and the tools and resources that they've come up with. And Judy and I went recently to the VSA VSBA conference, and I attended a workshop specifically around proficiency-based grading and heard a presentation from a district that's a little farther ahead of this than we are even. And they shared their process and what's happened with their transcript and their school profile over time, and the sorts of features that they've added to that information so that as their seniors go off to college, there are some new metrics and information that they've been able to include to sort of alleviate that class rank situation and proficiencies and make sure that they're positioning their students appropriately for whether college or career ready, what they're coming out with in terms of documentation. So there've been a lot of lessons learned by districts as they've tried this, and a lot of really creative, innovative people around the state who are trying to make sure that we're giving good information about student grades. So we included in this process collecting some samples from other districts around the state. I'm a member of the Vermont Curriculum Leaders Association. We also have a really strong regional curriculum directors group, so getting from them, what are the products that they're putting out around reporting grades under proficiencies, so that we can take a look at those also and see if there are some lessons learned or some things where we can not reinvent the wheel and can really glean some great advice from our friends who are a little farther down the path.
What is the outlook? How many years? Because like we said, it's been 2.5 years, and you keep saying this one's behind us, this one's ahead of us. I thought this all came out about the same time to everybody in Vermont,
did.
so I don't understand
Well,
why
We're
we're
left
still
on our
playing
own.
with something. Our kids will be through junior high, on to high, almost out of high, and we're still kind of playing with it.
Well, I would say the people that are ahead are the ones when Act 46 came in that were the low-hanging fruit of we can just merge because we're poised to merge, like Mill River. They did it the first year, it was really easy. And for us, it was a major merger, and it consumed, as you all know, a tremendous amount of board time and administrative time to do the merger, 2 years, really. And even this year, we're still focused on tasks that weren't completed in the merger. There are still things that are undone that we're working on. So some SUs or merged school districts are just one school district, so they can put all of their efforts in this one thing. They're not still working to bring procedures together like we did. This was a huge merger. You took two SUs and put them together. Not many other places did that. And that's why even in our SU, their people are at different points because, Pulteney High School's here, Proctor's there, and so I said from the beginning when we started this merger 2 years ago that it would take 5 years to finish the complete merger. That doesn't mean the grades, though. It's
Well,
just-
right now, it looks like it's gonna be, because it doesn't look like it's gonna be ready next year. We'll put it out another year, so that'll be about 5 years.
I would disagree with that. I would say by the end of the school year, you'll have a solid recommendation, one way or the other.
To move forward next year.
I would say, potentially, or at least a plan of how it's gonna go.
Yeah.
Some of this may also be creating resources and tools that make things easier for parents to understand. So, again, it depends on how complicated of a change we want to make moving forward. It could be something as simple as providing keys, supports, translation guides, conversion tables, like something simple for people.
Right.
So it really depends on, and there may be a rollout of those things over time. Like, here's what we can do right now to make this easier for everybody, and then here's what we
But
can
this
do
is our
moving forward.
recommendation and plan, so it'll be.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great thing, and my frustration, and the ones that have been around for a while will know, it always takes so long. We start out, this is gonna be new, this is how we're gonna do it, and then it takes us 5 years to get it complete. And in between, we really don't really know where we're going. I mean, it just seems like we should have done all of this before we even implemented it.
Well, this is why we were
This-
told it was the law, because we skipped all that and went with the law and just essentially put this in effect here. And we skipped all that because of that
Right.
reason.
Right, you know, we want to beef up math, okay, well, we're gonna do this or this, but first we have to get together and we have to do this, and then we're gonna do this. And it seems like a math program, science program, everything takes years to see the fruit. And I, very frustrated, because meanwhile, like I say, we're seeing our kiddos go on to other areas. And I'm not saying, because we're still one of the best schools, and I think one of the reasons we are is because we care and we want our students to get it and get out there. And I'm just frustrated. I mean, it's always been this way, no matter what program, whatever. In business, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't say, okay, we're going to switch to this. It's going to take us 3 years, but we're going to switch to this. It's almost like, okay, this is what we're going to do starting today, and we're off. Whereas this just is prolonged, I guess. But no, I totally agree. We have to do this. I just wish there was something in between.
Yep.
That's all.
Well, I think, we push the group and we see where we end up, and who knows what this board does in the meantime. I mean, one of the issues that I have, I feel like you guys are investigating something that's already been investigated. And so what I mean by that is if you read the newspaper, Maine started this in 2012 before us. If you type in Portland, and I think it's the South Portland School, there's a great article, I think it's in the Portland Free Press, about the South Portland School just broke away and went back to the ABCD grading. And why? Because the parents couldn't understand what a 2.6 was. They couldn't understand what a 2.4 is. And my parents here at Rutland Town can't come in here and understand, my kid's at a 2.7, he's approaching proficiency, but he's not proficient yet. And then they come into a parent-teacher and they're being told, their kid's great. So how's my kid a 2.7 and my kid's doing fantastic? There's things like that, and that was exactly what was written about in the main article, which was the parents couldn't understand where their kids are. And then, so I'll end on this. I mean, I think we can take it up another month. I really am looking to see what this comes back with information. I think it'll be good. Some of it, I think, I have a feeling, an idea exactly what the comments and the surveys are going to come back and say. But I will leave with this, and this is a really important thought, I think, for you to think about as the assistant superintendent, and especially overseeing grading and everything else, that if that's fine, if we want to move to proficiency and meeting each individual student's proficiency, we want to get rid of competition in school, we don't want to compare Tommy to Susie, then why didn't this law also have a subsection in it that banned every kid from taking the ACT test and the SAT test? Because isn't that exactly what we're doing when they get done? We're comparing them and about getting colleges, and then they're looking at the test scores. I mean, that's really what those tests are doing. They're comparing the kids and what they know. So,
But you know what, if you talk to any colleges now, they say that
oh,
they
it
don't
is,
put
but
as much
aren't you
weight.
ranking the students? By who's got the 1,600 and who's got the 1,400 and...
Not so much anymore, Matt.
And we don't give the same assessments to kids across the board in school here. I mean, I think that's part of it, you know. And that 100-point grading system, it's math. Tell me how you want it to turn out.
Mm-hmm. I think that's...
Tell me how you want to turn it out. I can come up with a lot, a system to make it work, because you can manipulate numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So it should it be about the learning or about the numbers? That's kind of the way I think about it.
Yep.
Taking the numbers out of it makes it a little bit more about the learning.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we want to be about.
So it's hard. I mean, it's really tough. I understand where this is going, but we're still ranking these kids. And, that's what we're doing at the end of the day. We come through this of you're not supposed to be ranked and you're supposed to be individual, only to give them a test at the end of their high school career, which again ranks them. And I'm not aware of anybody at Harvard going with 1,000-point score. They're not going with a pure 1,000. Not that I'm aware of anyway. So anyway, that's what I worry about. Is that it's kind of philosophical and it's going to go by the wayside because, there is competition in school. Kids work harder for certain things, and when you take that away, but, and I mean, the 100-point scale, the reason I'll just finish, I guess, on this too, is that the reason I like the 100-point scale, we know what a 95 is. That's an A. We know what an 85 is. That's a B. So the 100-point scale also takes care of the A, B, C, D. Which some people are in favor of going back to. So I just think the 100-point scale is favorable to the ABCD because it's mathematical, and we know what it equates to. You know, and that's why I leaned on you guys. I'm just not sure if our grading system can handle where the teaching is coming from and how it's being reported on the proficiency. I mean, it'd be easy to go back to 100, but when you come to me and say that, hey, your kid's got a 76, I know where he's at. Okay, we got some work to do. And if you come to me and he's a 94, I know that we're doing good. You know, I'm not so sure when you come to me with a 2.6 where I'm at. And that's the problem. I think this survey is gonna turn that up without a doubt, but. So moving on, I know Lewis has to get out tonight. But Lisa, thank you very much. And
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa.
Time. And anything else, just let me know, please, and I'll bring it forward to the committee.
Will.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Lewis?
Good evening. So I have a few things for you tonight. The first one is the budget forecast that was in the packet. So earlier this year, we talked about how we were running a deficit for this year just based on staffing. We were at approximately $220,000 in the deficit from staffing alone. So this now looked at the whole budget to see where we're running. And when I first completed this, I was showing that we were running about a $50,000 deficit. So we had recovered about $170,000 from tuition, secondary tuition savings, and from the HVAC project that we did last year. We did part of it last year, which means we have savings in that money that we got budgeted for this year. I sent that budget report to the principals and told them that we're still running about a $50,000 deficit. Can you find money in the budget to offset that? They responded immediately with some items that they have, lines that they have, specific lines that they have frozen, about 5 of them, 5 different lines, that would have minimal impact on the students. And so what you have in front of you is a updated version based on those, that feedback from the principals, which is showing that we're right now running a surplus of about almost $4,000, $3,500. So we're back to break even, and so we'll just continue to monitor this for the rest of the year.
I just gotta ask again on the HVAC system, because we had put the money in there to complete it. I know it's not completed, but we had told the residents that this was the money to get it fixed, we have to do it, they approved it. So if we put that towards the deficit, then how are we gonna fix or finish the
We
HVAC?
only put the portion of the project that was completed towards the deficit. There's still $65,000 left in here to complete the project. So the
Oh.
whole project was estimated to be $140,000.
Right.
75,000 of that we did last year with surplus funds that had at that time. So we took the 75,000 off the 140, which leaves 65,000 that's still in this budget that we're going to use to complete the project, and that's planned to be completed in the spring.
So it will be out of this budget, is my only question.
Correct.
Thank you,
Yes.
okay, that's
Oh,
all I need
wonderful.
to know.
Debbie and Lewis made sure they get the credit.
Thank you, that was my only question.
All right, I need to send it around. I think Ryan had only sent it to me, but I got an email I got to send down to you guys from a month or two showing the difference in our air filter. Ryan, you guys,
Picture, yeah.
that picture? And I think it's sure you guys haven't, has gone out to you. It came into me from Ryan, and I thought about before, and I forgot about it a month or two ago when it came into me. There's the old filter that we had was black, and the new one after running for a while is still completely white. But anyway, I don't think anyone looked at you ought to see the old filter.
They were supposed to be, there. It was supposedly on a timeline to change them
Jet
all.
black, and I'm not so sure it got done,
That-
but that was, this HVAC system was wonderful, and that's good to hear that it's actually
Mm-hmm.
factored into complete, because I would have an issue with that, telling voters that we did, and it's out there. I'm not so sure that more than 20 or 50 people might notice that, but at the same time, if we're putting it out there, we gotta follow through
Right,
with those
right.
statements that we make, even if only one person caught the fact that we said it. And, okay, so,
Great, thank you.
So the next item is the announced tuition. So each year we have to set a tuition rate for students that may attend Rutland Town School from other towns. I don't know that we have currently any students, I don't know.
We have
that-
tuition.
Do we have
Tuition students here?
that come here?
Yes. One this year.
One this year.
So in the case that we do, and it can vary from year to year, we have to set an announced tuition rate that's due to the state by next month.
Two. You have two.
2 students? Okay. So what I've prepared for you is a list of your announced tuition rate for last year, as well as some of the area schools and their announced tuition rate, and my recommendation. So I'm recommending, right now our tuition rate is 13,500 for the elementary, which is K6, and it's also 13.5 for the secondary, which is 7 and 8. I'm recommending that we up that to 14.5 for K8.
Now, what are our actuals running?
Well, that's a good question. So the state used to have what they called an allowable tuition rate.
Right.
However, since they switched to this SLDS, which is where they're collecting all the data from the schools electronically, they have not been able to provide us that data on time. So last year's data, it's supposed to be, we're supposed to have that data by December 15th
Right.
from the state. We didn't get that data until late spring last year, and it was not accurate at all. So a lot of the schools in the Rutland area, actually most of the ones that we deal with in the Rutland area and probably statewide, decided not to do anything with that data because it was so inaccurate. This year's data is still, we should have had it by now, we still do not have that data. So we don't really have an accurate allowable tuition for the last year.
Yeah, the only thing is I worry about is, if we charge too much, then we have to pay back, or if we didn't, vice versa, if we didn't pay enough, we gotta pay in. So I don't know where we are.
I definitely understand the point, and we're kind of all in the same boat there. So what Lynette's referring to is, we set an announced tuition rate, and then at the end of the year, we send all of our data to the state, and they're supposed to get back to us with an allowable tuition rate. And if what you charged was more than the actuals, then you had to give a refund. There's a 3% window either way, which you don't have to do any adjustments. But if you charge too much, you have to give a refund, and if you charge too little, you can send
Do a
out
bill
a
back.
revised bill. Unfortunately, because of some changes at the state level, that process was not done last year, and we don't know that it's going to happen this year because they're running late again.
I mean, in the past, I know it's, and you've seen it too, Matt, where we'll get a $50,000-$60,000 bill because, and that really whacks you. Well, you weren't planning on that, so, I'm just, are they gonna go, can they go back 2 years now that we didn't do it last year?
The schools in the Rutland area that we're sending our students to decided, mutually agreed that they weren't gonna do any bill backs.
Okay.
Just because the data was
That was good,
inaccurate.
okay.
For this year, that has not been decided yet. Until we have that information from the state, I don't think anyone's really talking about it. Everyone's concentrating on budget. And usually you want that information now so that you can budget for it, because you
Right.
have until July 31st of the following year to pay it.
Right.
So it really, it's not known right now, and I unfortunately don't have an answer.
I just wanted to understand what the difference was between the tuition rate and the per pupil rate, because per pupil, we were like 15,800, if I'm not mistaken, last year. And then, so I thought that was essentially the budget divided by the number of students, which isn't quite
So
accurate.
the per pupil rate is based on your equalized pupils. So you take your total educational spending divided by your equalized pupils to get your spending per pupil. Your
Oh, so
tuition
that's
rate-
from kids all the way from here to Rutland to going
It
to,
includes pre-K
Burton,
through
wherever.
12, all of your expenses.
Yep.
Where the announced tuition doesn't, it pulls things out, so it would not include your pre-K expenses, it would not include your secondary expenses, doesn't include your special ed costs, it doesn't include, I think debt, you can include it or not include it, that's really up to you. And then it looks at your ADM census data from the spring. So that at the end of the year, we have to report our student counts. It takes that count and divides your total expense divided by that number to get an announced or allowable tuition rate.
And I know that typically our elementary is higher than our secondary as costs go. I'm not, no, I'm not that uncomfortable, but
what do you guys think about the effect on the people who are tuitioning in? I mean, going from 13.5 to 14.5. I mean, what's your feelings on that? It looks like it's only gonna apply to 2 people right now, but,
And those students are from tuitioning towns,
yeah.
from Stockbridge and Ira.
Oh, okay. All right.
So it
So
doesn't
I think
affect-
I've had, in the 8 years I've been here, I've had one family that paid out of pocket.
Paid out of pocket then,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
And Lewis is great. He sets them up with a payment method, so don't have to pay it. You know, they make installments.
Yep. Although I was here, one family got caught between the house. But anyway, I remember they were building a house, but it wasn't enough, so then the school
Right.
made them pay. So there was somebody in the last few years, that got caught up in that, and then, you know, that applicable rate, I think, would apply, but. So, so you're recommending 14.5, moving up from 13.5? Has anybody else voted on this in the district
Well
yet?
Springs, they had, theirs was 13.5. I also recommend they go to 14.5, and I have the same recommendation for Corey Valley.
And they voted,
Corey Valley has not voted yet. Well Springs voted.
in favor of 14.5.
I'll make a motion to set the tuition rates at 14.5. And that's pre-K through 8?
K through 8.
Just K through 8, okay.
Seconded by Tim. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Great, thank you, Louis. What else do we have over there?
Last thing before I get into budget, I'm gonna pass the budget around and I'll talk on it while it goes around. So I did receive an email from Kirsten Hathaway from the town office. She just wanted me she wanted to double check that we were planning on January 21st for town meeting, which I believe that was the date that we had picked.
Mm-hmm.
And she also wanted me to let you know that the town is going first and school is going second.
Is that the pre-town meeting?
Yeah, they usually both.
Does she have it at what time? Did you have a time at?
a second one after that?
No, when both, if you either go first for both of them or second for both of them.
I see
So both nights will be second, which is a long night.
No, you got one.
They usually start at 7, I think.
Yeah, 7 is the set time for town meetings.
So it'll
unless-
start at 7 and.
For some reason, we already calendar for 6. It's already on my calendar for 6, and I'm wondering
Usually-
if that was for us to get here.
Probably for us to get here, but, and then we usually meet real quick, any questions, go over, then go down, but if select board's going first, Lord knows.
And how long's the town usually take?
Depends on what they have on.
That's the long one. I think I did 10 minutes last
They're
year.
the ones that, yeah, 'cause they get people. And then,
They gotta cover every department.
and then they leave when the
Everybody
select board
leaves.
leave, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, to be quite honest with you, though, we've done, last year, we went first, and to
Yeah.
be quite honest.
No,
with you,
it's
most of the
always
people
been
weren't
every
in.
other, but
No,
I
no,
just
we
don't know.
switched back and forth, but I'm saying when we started out first, then there was actually a lot of people that chose not to come in for the school. We only talked to
Oh, yeah.
about 6 people. So, and that's why it only took 10 minutes, I think. I think we sped through it pretty quick and,
It's always interesting watching another town.
yep.
I find it interesting.
So it'll be the,
Yeah,
but,
so that's fine.
So I will let her
Okay.
know that we're planning on the 21st as well.
yep, exactly.
And you'll let us know the time.
Well, they can't, it starts at
It's
7.
whenever.
Oh, it starts at 7.
The select
So
board
this is
starts at
called a
7 and we'll be on
pre-town
when they're
meeting.
done.
Right, okay. I just want to make sure that we
And then
include
you
it on
do
our
a
calendar
town
that
meeting,
it's
like,
at 7.
That's
And then-
considered voting
The
day,
night
I
before,
believe.
Huh?
Monday night.
Is it?
Monday night before town meeting
Right,
That's what?
would be town meeting.
town meeting. This is pre-town that we're talking about on the 21st. And then you have town meeting, which is the Monday before the voting.
yeah, get your calendar. It's in March. I want to say
So
6th.
it's March 2nd.
No,
It's always
can't
in
be.
there.
Can't be. Can't be the second.
Why?
For town meeting?
What's the?
It's always the second Tuesday is the vote,
Yeah.
always the second Tuesday, so if it's the Monday before, then it's gonna be the
Second
second
Tuesday.
Monday.
I thought
so
it was
it'll be
the
the
first
ninth.
Tuesday.
First Tuesday.
The,
night.
I thought it was always the second, I always counted out,
No.
6, so, alright,
So the
and I don't
second
have a calendar for
is
that
the
yet.
first Monday, and
I s-
Yep.
Yeah.
I knew it. I
So
was
it was?
right. No, I said
See, I don't
6th.
even know
You
what
said
I'm
the
talking about.
6th.
Alright,
then. Okay. So going on to budget, I just passed it around. A lot has changed, or a lot has stayed the same since the last budget. The only 4 major changes I've highlighted on the front, on the sheet that says summary of changes. So I've updated the SRO expense with the updated estimate, updated secondary tuition numbers with new estimates. There was a lot of discussion regarding the HVAC and repair lines at the last meeting, so I updated those numbers. Right now, so the HVAC repair line is at 0 because the project should be completed by the end of this year. And the repair line has been moved to 65,000, which is an increase of 26,000 over current year, and that's, and there is some information that we collected on the 5-year plan, so that's to help support those repairs. And then the last change is the updated SU assessments with the final approved GRCSU budget.
And what was that? What did that end up being?
It resulted in a decrease, we cut 157,000 from the general fund budget and net about 70,000 from the special ed budget.
So we
That's
didn't
the-
end up going the special ed route. I think the only position that was hired out of that was the psychologist. Out of the 3
Right.
special ed people, the behaviorist and the psychologist, for that possible program, and an unknown amount of rent, or
Right.
unknown amount of rent, ended up getting reduced down to come back with more details, but at the moment, our psychologist is buried, so add another psychologist to the role. And the behaviorist was not
That
approved.
came out.
That one was stricken too. So, was the tech person stripped? I think that
One.
was
We left
stricken.
We left one tech person.
One
in.
person, 2 was, the
And
second was
Took
stricken.
out the grant writer and one of the other tech positions, and then there was some small cuts.
Okay.
How,
Sorry.
So we'll have a third psychologist is the proposal?
Correct.
School psychologist?
So Christine Cam reported on some changes at the secondaries, independent schools, no, not just
No, the ones that we
independent, all
tuition
secondary
kids
stu-
to.
schools where we're tuitioning our students out. Right now, they're currently doing evaluations for our students, and some of them bill us. I'm not sure if they all bill us or not, but they're not going to be doing those going forward, so we have to hire a psychologist to do those evaluations. And I think she said there was about 58 students.
56,
something like that. Okay.
So instead of having a team that does evaluations, they'll just have that for the kids that are being tuitioned to other schools.
Is that gonna cover their needs?
Hmm?
Is that gonna cover their needs?
Yeah, it should.
Okay.
So based on those 4 changes in the budget, currently we're looking at total expense is at an increase of 481,000, which is 5.72%. And total education spending is up by 409,000, 4.96%.
So it came down actually. That was, thank the Lord, because we were at 8.6 on the first draft.
Well, the expenditure line last time was 7.6, now it's 5.7.
Mm-hmm.
The bottom line was 6, well, might as well say 7%. And now it's 4, 5.
496 looks a lot better than the number we're at. So since I can't see in here, my understanding is this year, Louis, there's been no special projects in here this year. Doesn't, this is one of those tough years that it just doesn't look like there's any extra. Had there been any special project? The only thing I'd asked to be included in this budget was the Halloween parade, I think at $2,000 or 2,500.
Yep, that's included in here.
Was there anything else that we have in there just to make sure that, if I say we've done no special projects this year, there's not a special project?
So if you go back to the summary of changes for draft 1, you can see most of those things. We didn't add any additional staffing since the year has started. There was staffing that was added at the end of last year that
Mhm.
wasn't budgeted. There was a teacher, interventionist, and some special ed staffing, but we haven't added anything new since then. The money for the Halloween parade is in here.
Did we ask for money for
Insurance increases.
the hockey rink? Did we ask for that 2,500 or no? We talked about it. I
We
don't
talked
think
about it,
it
but
never
we
made it
weren't-
into the
No,
budget.
because we weren't sure
I
if
just
we were
wanted to
gonna
make
need
sure it's not
anything.
there, right?
We don't need it.
Yep. No, we don't. No,
Do
you're
not
absolutely
need
right.
it.
Yep. No, I
Right.
understand.
All being
So
done through.
that's why I wanted to make sure it wasn't there, and I just.
Fundraising and grants.
Now, what's the Halloween, what's that money for?
The Halloween parade had been funded by the Friends of Music,
Mhm.
and is that 2,000 or 2,500?
We put 2,000.
2,000. So I found it rather upsetting when I became aware this year that Friends of Music, instead of using the money towards broken instruments, helping people that can't afford an instrument, you know, they were using that money for pretty much everything, was then devoting, you know, over $2,000 a year to the Halloween parade, and
Got
paying for that.
uniforms and-
And that was for uniforms and costumes, banner, and then they're carrying Rutland Town Schools banner down through the city in front of 40,000 people, which is marketing for this school, and Friends of Music is paying for it. So I just thought that their 2,000.
No, that's fine, I just didn't know, I just wanted to make sure. Oh, no,
I think
Didn't
it's a
say
Rutland
anything.
Town marketing, and so
you think?
at the slightly,
They always sound better than the high school, so.
and they got
Everybody
either best
comes.
band or best costume this year. I
Best
think. and-
costumed, I think, 2 years
Yeah.
in a row. Best
Yeah.
costume marching band.
Yep. And so that was great, but I honestly believe that money, if they're gonna go raise that and take that time to raise 2,000, then they should spend that on the musics, whether it's updating something down there for Aaron that he needs, helping low-income students, but
no
instead of
problem.
paying for our Halloween parade, I just feel like it's a school.
No, that's
So-
fine, I just didn't, I missed
So I
that
just wanna
part.
make sure when I tell the public, the only thing that we've added in here is $2,000 for a parade. Otherwise, this was a bare bones year, and these increases are things that we can't control. And that if the public comes back and strikes down this budget in part, it's gonna be, we're cutting teachers at this point. There's nothing else to do, and
A large portion of, like we talked about it last month, a large portion of the increase is, I mean, there's secondary tuition, that's 175,000. Health insurance increases are at 12.9%, that's another 56,000.
And special ed, right?
Yep.
Or no.
Special ed at the special ed at
SU
the SU level,
Right.
which is flowing down to you, increasing your assessments, that's
Mhm.
definitely a piece of it. And then, the staffing that we needed to hire, both special ed and regular, it all flows through.
Okay.
question for the principals, anything you guys wanna add to this? Any changes, at this point?
I think, Louis, did we put something in there to help us with pre-K
Playground?
playground?
We upped the repairs line by $26,000 at this point.
And you put the pre-K playground in there. And
That's
In the-
part of your 5-year plan, correct? So that increase should be able to,
Okay. for next
I
year,
know
yeah.
there was that piece, there was the pre-K playground, and then there was the nurse's office
Right.
flooring.
Flooring.
and these guys.
Are we planning on adding that next year, the playground? Is that like a summer or it'd be a
that's
next
one of
year's
the things, I mean,
project?
we've been looking for grants and Nancy McGill's continuing to help us look for that as well, but we don't have a play area that's developmentally appropriate for our preschool
I
kids.
have heard that. I knew it was coming. I just thought we'd be putting it
Yeah,
on
we
next
really
year's
need
budget, but.
Yeah.
So the 26,000 roughly may cover it or no? Or are we building a capital fund for it? That's-
No, I think that was our hope too. I can't see the 4-year plan in here. That's what I'm
But
looking
I
for.
sent that out separately. Did you
Separately.
all get a copy of this?
I didn't
Okay.
know.
There's certain codes
I have a
for
copy, but not here.
preschool playgrounds too, right?
It's on my desk.
Yes, there are. Yeah. Yeah. So there, we looked into that
Yeah.
as well, like if we need to have a fence.
Yeah.
But I think where we would need to put it we don't need a fence. Yeah.
We looked at the regulations and so.
I just meant for the existing playground for preschool kids, there's certain codes for that, I think. Like what they're able to,
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's different.
Well, it looks like it should cover it then, most of it, if not all of it. Okay.
And that was the 26 you guys added to the budget?
Yeah, but that's 26, no, the 26 was just the total line, right?
We increased the line from 38 to 65. It's not listed separately. We just increased the
Ooh.
repair line from 38 to 65.
Yep. But that ain't,
So how much is the pre-K?
I'm not so sure why it's on here twice.
It's on here
I
twice,
just noticed
yeah.
that, it's on here twice. Between $7,000 and
But it's,
$10,000.
Okay, but he just upped it, how much?
that's what I'm saying. What's the other
26.
money for? The
Why did we go
26?
up to 26?
Nurse's office floor.
But
look at
that's
all
listed
the,
as 20. Well, no, that's not even,
see, 2021.
oh, okay.
You've got a whole
We've already
list
done
of
that on the
projects.
previous year. I'm just trying to figure out our budget. That's what we're talking about right now,
Right.
back to the table, which is the budget coming up for this coming year. So the fact that nursing just throws me off to see that, because all I'm focused in on right now is what we changed for this coming year and what we're gonna be covering. So we added 26,000 to the repair item.
Yep, and so
Some of
this-
that will be the playground. What's the other money going for? These other items here?
If you look at the FY 2021 list,
Yep, it's 2020, or,
those are all items, I mean, most of them are small, so the biggest one is the flooring for the nurse's office.
but that was last year, wasn't it?
No, we haven't
No,
done it
we haven't
yet.
done
Oh,
it
we
yet.
haven't done yet.
But it says 2020, I can see Matt's confusion.
No, no, I'm not understanding the
Oh,
numbers.
I
At the
understand,
playground,
because
7
it's
to
2021, so I think they're saying they're gonna do it in the fall of 2020.
No, but what I'm saying is
After
that
June
if,
30th.
the only reason I say this right now is
Got it.
what I'm confused about is the fact, I'm just looking at approving this budget for next year. You asked for $26,000. The nurse's floor is 20,000, the playground is 7 to 10,000, and you asked for 26. What exactly are we planning on doing this coming budget? We're already over budget on that.
26
No,
additional.
26
Additional.
We have
They already
30
have,
line item.
but
Okay.
my
Thank
question
you.
is,
All right.
5 total.
All right.
not to
Now I
nitpick,
get you.
but we have storage sheds again? Where are we putting these sheds now? I didn't know we were gonna put additional sheds.
For us, it's a place to put some of the PE equipment that we have. I mean, we have a lot of PE equipment that needs storage, and maintenance equipment too. For example, the mowing decks, and things like that. That we're just running out of space to put these things. A lot of the equipment that we have, like in the hallway, that we should really have out of the hallway. That we use intermittently. If we had the mowing decks and that, and the tractor in a shed rather than the back, we could put some of those other machines that we use more daily in the maintenance room rather than having them in the hallway. So,
And I understand we're storing our copier paper with the lawnmower in the shed
Yeah.
too?
Oh, 'cause those were that was being stored upstairs.
What?
Copy paper?
Supplies, I heard,
that's
I would,
heavy to cart them up and down the stairs. They're
It's going
it's
in
a
there
lot.
on a
They're big
pallet, isn't it, or
pallets. Yeah, it's
something?
a big
Yeah, they're
pallet.
coming in on pallets, so it's just being dropped out in the shed with the lawnmower right now. What are you guys proposing for sheds, by the way?
Just 2 sheds, one for PE equipment, one for maintenance equipment.
Would you guys have an issue coming back and seeing us before those are done?
yeah,
Oh,
because
yeah,
I have
no.
no idea sizes,
No, we would
places,
pick
anything.
we would get that information to you before we actually did it.
Okay. Well, I just know that we've had conversations about bidding and under 15, you guys are free, but this was the one that,
Well,
I'm always
aesthetically-
protective about the
Aesthetically.
grounds.
Yeah.
And the aesthetics of it, and I just don't, I've worked out there for 3 years, and I really don't want someone coming in and going,
I'm
oh,
trying
we're
to,
gonna
I'm trying to
slam
picture
this
where they're
here."
gonna put it and.
Where you're gonna put it, and it just, that would frustrate me to work on.
So that will be shared before that
Yes.
happens.
And we can even sometime take a walk and show you, you know, it's a little nicer and easier to walk around.
I'd like to go,
Yeah,
Yep.
come up with it, show you what we're talking about.
maybe do it early, like at
Get some pictures and
5:30.
things, yeah.
And so I don't know how these guys feel about the playground. I'll leave that one to you. I would just ask that one of my bigger mistakes, I think, as I look back here, being in the school board, was probably putting those park horse items where they were. It started out putting it on the trail for me is how it began.
Right.
Then it began, well, we can't do that. There's this and that. 20 other reasons came up, so they ended up getting put there. That's my biggest regret on the school. The reason I say that is the gym class used a little bit. I'm not sure how much use it's getting this year. I hear minimal. But I think we could have used that money elsewhere. That was one of my bigger regrets. But it's interesting is that I violated my own rule in doing that, which was we should ask the kids. And so mine was more physical fitness and using the trail. It then got converted to being all plopped out here behind the gymnasium.
Well, it's
So
not-
it got modified, but with the preschool.
We kinda got sold that too, that was more important than, say, the climbing wall.
Yep. And I think
So-
looking back, I would have done things differently, but most importantly,
I like your idea about asking the kids.
I would
that.
ask the kids, but if the problem was, in that case, it was physical fitness, so we weren't gonna ask them because they would all go out and play street hockey all day if they could. Every day for gym class for the entire year.
One of the things we could do with the kids is, you know, have them like draw what their favorite playground would be, and then see what they have in common in their pictures, and see if we can find things that have
I love that idea.
incorporate the things that they like to do. There's a lot of options and things to choose from, so I love your idea of taking.
That's a great idea, except we don't have to really worry about it, because our kids don't get recess.
What's
Oh,
that?
yes, they do. Pre-K is required an hour a day outside.
No, I'm talking about the older kids, the ones that would design and tell you.
No.
No,
I'm
no,
gonna
we're
get
talking
it
about the
from
pre-K.
kids.
This is the pre-K
I'm
playground.
gonna get them to
They-
design it.
this-
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I'm talking about the park course and
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff like that. it really,
Yep.
that might be why it doesn't get much use, is we're not outside anymore.
Yep.
I'm
Fifth and
still
fifth and
ticked
sixth
about
grade
that.
Fifth and
outside.
sixth grade go outside. Seventh and eighth grade can every morning, but then they have PE. So they.
I
would
think
be-
it's made up. I got one of the more active kids in 7th grade right now, and he reports it's okay. I'm sure he'd take a recess. If we gave him a
I
recess, he'd
have
be happy to go out
fought
there and
fought
stomp
with
around.
them
But
last year about going outside
will
during
go outside.
recess. They will not go outside.
Well, that's
They
a,
would
yeah,
go change before lunch and into their PE clothes and say that they don't have a jacket or hats and mittens. I would invite any one of you to come down there. It was
Oh, yeah.
unreal. These kids
well,
would
7th
not
and 8th
want to go
grade,
out to
it's
recess.
more of a
Until the
social
weather's nice.
thing.
Until the weather's
Yeah,
nice.
until
Then
the
they'll go
weather's nice.
outside.
Then
But
they'll
if
be-
it's
That is true.
if
It's more of a
it's-
social thing, it isn't.
They
go
will not.
out
I've
and-
asked them. I said, or I twisted my ankle. I'm at the nurse. I can't go out to read. I mean, it was on and on and on.
I'm sorry, we're holding up, Lewis.
no. All right. So we got that 26,000. Anything else in there that we had?
Nothing major then, I mean, reference this first sheet that has all of the major
Yep.
changes in it. I mean, anything that you wanna know will be included on that.
So let me ask you this question, because one of the questions posed was whether we should vote on this tonight. I'm not of the opinion that having 2 extra board members here are gonna make a difference anyway. Not to say that if we got time to wait till January to do this, then we'll just wait. But at the same time, if there's no other cuts to be made and we're just waiting, numbers are just fluctuating as they always do. There's nothing in here, I don't think, that can be cut.
Lewis, is there anything pending that we might hear about that will affect this as far as from the state?
There's a few pieces pending, we don't know equalized pupils yet. That's supposed to be due out December 15th.
Yep.
Last year it was very late, we don't know if it's gonna be on target this
I
year.
mean, because that drastically changes our percentages
So that
depending
will
what
give us our
happens.
per pupil numbers. CLA, we don't know how that's gonna be. We're still waiting on vocational 6-semester rolling average numbers. That should not have a major impact. And then we've gotten some preliminary information on the state tax rate, but that's just an estimate at this point from the tax commissioner. I don't know that we'll have anything more solid by January on that, so the two big things are equalized pupils and CLA.
I'd like,
tuition measure
I'd like to hold off just to see what those numbers are, in case we have them, then we know we've got the best. Because it is just a guess, because the state can't get off their duffs and do what they're supposed to do. So every time we go out there, we tell them, well, we think it's gonna be this, but of course it can change, because we don't have our numbers. But, I don't know, what do you guys wanna do?
Approving it now versus next month doesn't do anything to change.
So you're not looking for a vote from us tonight then? January 10th is
I was
fine?
not expecting a vote.
Okay, so January 10th is fine with you. Perfect. I'm okay with it. Anything else, Louis?
The only thing I would have is if you wanna see any changes.
I don't know if there's anything we can do at this
Want me to
point.
just bring back the same budget,
The same budget would just equalize.
updated information.
With
Ju-
the
just-
updated information.
Just so we're voting on what's gonna go to the taxpayers.
You know,
basically.
depending, I mean, there have been, as you know, Louis, some years where we look at a 4% increase and it comes back after we get the numbers and they're looking at 20%, and then we're digging to cut. So I just, yeah, if we could. They really scared me that year, so.
Yeah, I mean, if the equalized pupils goes down and CLA goes, down as well, then you can see yourself. even
Hurting.
With a flat budget, you can see a pretty large increase.
Yep. So I just, that's why I kind of like to.
Yep. No, that works out. No, that's fine. No, and if there's any cuts, I think it's only to a 3rd grade teacher, so you feel free to try that. Yeah. Otherwise,
Don't
Yeah.
start it.
I
Jeez.
think that's the only place, is pre-K and K and 3rd grade.
Thank you,
So,
Louis.
Thank you very much,
Anything
Louis.
else that you need from me tonight?
Not that I can think of yet.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Have a good holiday.
Perfect. You too. Thank you, Louis.
You too.
Skipping superintendents. Do we want to do co-principals report?
You want, we didn't do director's orders, that all set?
or approval.
Oh,
of
you know, we
minutes.
should have let's just do, well,
Go ahead.
I hate that consent agenda, but do you guys want to, just approve the consent agenda, which then approves the director's order in the minutes? So that's the way it's set up now, is that, we vote on the consent agenda, which automatically approves the orders and approval of the minutes. I like having those broken out personally.
I like having them broken out.
All right, let's just do it the old way, and we make
Okay.
things up today. There's no one here to
We can
object,
change
so.
the agenda because you know
Well,
what?
no, they're on separate here, but I just don't, yeah.
Yep, so director's orders, I already reviewed them, signed them, approved them,
Yep,
unless anybody
they're
has any
done deal.
changes. Done. Approval, the minutes, additions, deletions, amendments.
Yeah, I thought there was one. Hang on, I can find it now. Because of course I find it online and then I don't print it and don't do anything. And we need to stop talking so much. That's what we need to do. Did you notice how adept this is this time? My question was on, I think it's 11, executive session. If you read,
Did you say page 11?
10, I'm sorry, I'm on 10. The last two motions. Oh, nope. Nope, never mind. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's the motion for Hathaway, then it said carried, no, and then the next motion said carried, no. So according to the minutes, we didn't approve either.
Oh, that is true, that is correct.
So that confused me.
So Shauna, you gotta say? Bottom of page 10, do you have the minutes, or you want mine?
I have them right
Let me
here,
see if
but
I have the
wasn't there. I got
originals.
the information from
Yep,
From me.
Judy.
that's right.
I mean,
just
it
a-
was confusing at the time, so
I have it
yeah.
written down, so let's take a look. Out of executive session at 9:57 by consensus. Motion. Matt Corinne accept Kurt Hathaway 10,000 snowplow bid for 2019-20. At 10,000. I had 2 abstentions, 3 in favor, so it passed.
And it
Our
says
minutes
carried
have
no.
1 yes, 3 no, 1 abstention was the,
So it
Well,
should
I
be,
have right here,
it's supposed to be just the
2
opposite.
yeah, it's backward,
3
and
in
that might have
favor.
been my.
Oh, no, it's
yeah.
not even
It
correct.
should be yes, motion carried,
Yeah,
3 in favor, 2 abstentions.
so you got that, get rid of the 1 in front of yes. So just the yes, comma, 3 in favor, 2 abstentions.
Right. And then the Quirk brothers should say, let's make sure it's right.
I'm sorry, just,
I'll just read it, somebody else check.
Yep, it's 1 yes.
yeah, but that's wrong.
Motion by Matt to pay the invoice. Second, Lynette. Motion failed, 1-3, 1 abstention.
Nope,
Yep.
that's the other one.
No, that's correct, that one's okay.
That's correct.
Oh, that one there, yes.
The other one
yes.
was wrong.
Right.
Yep,
I just read it out. It did pass, and I remember it did
Yep.
pass, so.
exactly, okay.
I think there was 1 abstention, 1 no, and 3 yes. Right? I just wanna.
Perfect.
Okay,
So,
that's all.
motion to approve the minutes, subject to those amendments.
Tim did.
Who's gonna make that motion?
I'll
Am I gonna make a motion?
Yes.
Well, he
Second
did say it earlier, but then we started talking
that?
over
Yeah,
him.
so seconded by Lynn?
Yes, yes,
All right,
got it.
perfect. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
I just started panicking, thinking, what are we gonna do if we get a snowstorm? We don't have anybody.
We've already had a snowstorm, so we're all set.
It's ridiculous.
Perfect.
And we made sure that no sand's being, I just wanna make sure no sand's being used in the lot.
I mean, yes.
Okay,
Sand?
yeah.
I don't know. I guess it relates back to the gym floor.
It's the gym floor because it destroys the gym floor. So it's always been just
Oh, I thought it
plowing
was
and
the
salt.
Yep.
Yep, just plowing and salt, no sand.
Thanks for mine, Ryan.
Yep, just being a new person doing it.
Yes,
I just want to
okay.
make sure.
I'm not sure traditionally what was done up there, but the co-principals report.
All right, so we had a great turnout for our Thanksgiving dinner. So thanks to our food service. We have a couple of 8th grade boys, Carson Meggs and Logan Chamberlain, that were serving dessert. And we also have Michael Bove. He's also joined both Carson and Logan a few times to help serve some of the younger kids. They approached me and said, can we help in the kitchen sometime? So they've taken some of their flex time to go help the women in the kitchen, which is really appreciated. Student conferences were well attended. We had 94% of parents and guardians attend.
Yeah, the other, there were a few, middle school students whose parents couldn't attend, so those students are presenting their student-led conferences to one of us.
Or Miss Swayze,
Or
our
Miss
guidance
Swayze,
counselor, yeah.
So,
90%?
94.
94.
94 attendance.
94%.
That's very good. Yeah, families attended, which is great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, usually we see a little bit less in the springtime.
Are they
but-
getting enough information?
Yeah, we actually did, our middle school teachers were great, and they did a survey on, to get feedback from parents on how they felt the student-led conference. Yeah,
have
sure, pass
copy.
it out.
You wanna see
I
what
think
the
one of the
survey-
things that it's a shift in that, there are more, parent-teacher conferences for elementary, and they're
Right.
used to that, and middle school is different.
Right.
So we want to encourage parents that anytime they want to meet with teachers, and we put that in the newsletter 3 weeks running up to student conferences, but
Okay.
to reach out to teachers at any time if they have a concern, and they're happy to meet with them.
But, yeah, I had heard a couple comments, but not usually. Usually if it's negative, you hear it everywhere.
Yeah.
I got a couple comments, but I think, like you said, it's the change.
Yeah.
They didn't
yeah.
feel that they had the opportunity to ask the teacher, and I just told them, well, call.
Call the
Yeah,
teacher.
or send an email. I know a couple of parents asked me that. They were, oh, I wish I had done this sooner.
Okay.
But this, at student conferences, this is a chance for our middle school students it puts it on them.
Yep.
So we had the Rutland High School Jazz Band and String Ensemble and Chorus. They performed to our middle school students. And I think there was we counted 7 Rutland Town just in the jazz ensemble that were there. Yeah. So it was great to see them. It's the time for field trips. We had an assembly on responsible online and cell phone usage that we received great feedback from our older kids. And our teachers are getting ready for January math assessments already.
And for upcoming events, our grade 3 and 4 tech buddies, so one of the 3rd grades and one of the 4th grades work together on learning their tech skills, and they're working on their personalized learning plans, and their community goal is to do a service project, and they're working on sharing their talents with folks at one of the local nursing homes, and they're going.
You're going to confuse the heck out of those people.
It's going to be great. I mean, they're so excited, and
That is awesome, but I'm just,
It's terrific.
it is.
Some of
It's
them are-
awesome, but I
They're
just
doing
think it's
things
some of those
like
people.
magic tricks and coloring and playing games and then singing. It's really adorable.
That is great.
My
It
aunt
is.
is 96 and she uses Facebook.
Does she really? That's awesome.
Keeps up with the
Good for
family.
her.
And also next week, our band and chorus are going to be visiting local nursing homes as well to
Oh,
perform
nice.
for folks.
Good.
And I think tomorrow, the jazz band is performing at the fire station for the Rutland seniors, so they'll be there for that. 8th grade is doing their service learning shopping trip next week for needy families. Our K-4 winter concert is this Thursday night at 6:30. Our band is going to be having another field trip next week to do some more playing and for folks around the area.
great.
Yeah. Grade 4 is going to Spartan Arena, and we have our winter concert for 5 through 8 following week, and then we have our December recess. And you see the kind of
Oh,
nice
yeah,
photos
that's
we have.
right. I'm going to miss the concert.
Some nice
Thursday
nice
concert,
photos.
6:30, is that right?
Yes,
And that's the one next week.
they're both at 6:30, this Thursday and next Thursday. K-4 is this Thursday, 5 through 8 is next Thursday.
And I promise the parents out there, this is the last year that you'll have 2 full weeks off at Christmas.
Just to set your,
No,
no,
not,
no, no, no. We started discussing the calendar today, and we voted not to do 2 weeks next year.
Yay! That is amazing how
pretty
many
unanimous.
complaints on that we get, but yeah.
That only comes around once every 7 years.
7 years, is that when it happens?
It's-
7 years?
That's what I
Way-
keep.
it's when it's on a
Last year though
Wednesday.
seemed almost 2
Next
weeks.
year-
Well, I made Judy nervous because when that calendar was done,
Yeah,
I thought it had to be
she
wrong.
some schools go back that Thursday, Friday. So I had emailed her and got her all worried, and she said, "No, we go by the Stafford calendar, and we're set." I said, "Oh, sorry."
No, next year we'll probably be going back, no, not, getting out on the 23rd. So it will not be, it'll be like a week and a half.
I do have one. You want me to wait or ask now, Matt?
No, please, go ahead.
Snow days. I'm gonna go over this one more time. Because it's the second time we've canceled school and really wasn't anything, and I realize you go by
I know.
the forecast, but how is that done? Because what happens is I'll look and see, and as soon as I see Pulteney or Middletown, we're not gonna have school. Does it have to be all the districts at the same time? Because Middletown, Pulteney, Wells, they're a little different. They're a little further out there.
Sometimes they're less than you, too.
But we're getting,
so-
I'm getting a lot of complaints.
Well, I will say,
He hates doing this.
I know.
everybody hates doing it.
Yeah,
Every
I remember, I
superintendent-
used to
No,
get
no,
up at
but
5 in the morning to
She's
do
like,
this, so I
don't
know.
want it- We're not gonna have a snow day. We're just not gonna have anything.
I remember
That was the
saying
plan this summer.
No. So basically, the process is superintendents actually now get notifications from the National Weather Service. They're for emergency providers, but we're included on the list. So that's kind of step one. You check it and talk to the road guys. You know, I talk to the bus people, and then you just make your decision. And that said, I would say those 2 snow days that we called, the forecast wasn't entirely accurate. I don't,
But see,
you know,
and
it's
I
iffy.
agree,
It's
but
iffy, and, you know, Sarah will tell you, I hate calling snow days. I'm like very reluctant.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, when you're looking at, like, one of the snow days, I said, would it be better if we go in at 10? And they said, no, it'll probably be worse. No, that was the one where we did go to school. That's right.
Right, because I was thinking, we
They
didn't
were,
have a
they were
delay.
like, don't do a delay, it's gonna be worse. So I do listen to them, I don't ignore them. But, you know, it's kind of like Russian roulette.
Well, I hate it too because everybody makes the decision whether it was right and wrong, right or wrong, in hindsight. No one wants to
It's
make
true.
that call when you're looking at the weather
Right.
forecast like Judy is.
it's true.
Like, who wants to start calling that and wait for the
But then-
first car accident for a parent to get into with 3 kids in the
Right.
car?
But they were wondering, and rightfully so, if this is an Act 46 thing too, so if one
No.
school's closed, everybody closes.
Well,
I said,
we
well-
closed West Rutland because they had no heat, but they were
Well,
the
that's
only one that
different. I
went
meant as
down.
far as snow related.
You know, and sometimes, you know, we do different things, like down in Pulteney and Wells and Middletown doesn't have a bus. On that one day when we did have school, we opened school, but we said main road pickup only. Because they have a lot of back roads.
Right.
And that's one way we get around having school, but accommodating their back roads.
You know, and people, you know, and I understand both sides of it. Like I said, I used to get up at 5 in the morning and actually look outside because you really can't go with the weather forecast ever. And then I would call the highway people and then I would call it. Now I understand that's at 5 o'clock, so maybe by 5:30, 6 o'clock, school's canceled. People have to run around, they have to get sitters, they have to, and I understand that. So if you close the night before, then they have plenty of opportunity to do that. But you know, it's kind of funny because I get people yelling at both sides. Well, they need to, it's not safe if you don't do it, and then I get the ones, well, what the heck, you know, roads weren't even covered. So I just want to,
But I think Matt's right, you know, you're not gonna please everybody. You use your best judgment. I even reach out to the principals, you know, when I do it. So I get a lot of input. And I'll say, okay, it's 5:25, gotta make a call.
I mean, I'm sure you've seen those jokes on Facebook where they've got plows on the front of the truck and four-wheel, you know, big, huge tires and, Okay, no more school days, but I just wanted to make sure everybody out there understood that, you know,
It's not an easy call, but.
no, hindsight's always 20/20.
And you know, the worst is when you call it and you're like, where's the snow?
Yeah, you're praying for snow at that
They
part.
told you were gonna get, you know,
Yep.
that, where's that other 6 inches we were supposed to get today?
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
After you made that phone call, I watched the weather forecast
Go.
change and get
Yep.
lighter and get
Yep.
lighter, and it actually came in south, so you got hammered more down in Ludlow.
Right.
No, we
than
didn't
did
even
up
get
here.
as much as they said we would.
Oh, really? Yep.
Yeah, and it was like, the only places that really got that significant were Bennington,
Right.
Manchester. It was way
it's,
much
yeah,
lower than
stop
what they
there
said.
and then further up afterwards, they got it above us, but, yeah.
Yeah, but it just kept getting lighter and lighter. The forecast did as I was going. I usually go to bed around midnight, so as I got later, I'm like, oh boy, this. I can't wait to read the
Matt.
comments tomorrow. And of course, the comments were, "Who the hell called the snow day?" And,
Yeah.
But when you were looking at
It
the
was
forecast,
me.
But you know, I gotta
Well,
tell you,
looking at the forecast,
Rutland
and-
City gets it worse than we do, because they never, ever close school. They were the first ones to close. Both last 2 times we closed, they were the first ones to close, which
And I'm the one that
amazed me.
sits on the fence.
it's so disappointing because it reminds me of Wall Street. You know, if you're going to
It's-
put $20,000 on a stock and going to make some money, everybody's going to hem and haw. But as
Yep.
soon as that stock goes up 20%, everyone's like, "I know that this is exactly why it went up this money, and
No,
this
but-
is why." It's so easy to say that after the fact.
I would say
But-
that this year, though, the forecasts have been hard to call. And then they haven't been as much as they say every time.
I think they should be paid on their accuracy.
Sometimes
way
they're
it
very
goes.
accurate, but they're just
Like a
shaky
golfer, right?
storms, you know?
Anything else other than the weather? All right, guys. Thank you so much. The so moving on, we don't have any staff appointments, support staff.
I don't have any in my packet, no.
Okay, and then we had no superintendent's report. Lisa took that
Lisa
time, right?
took it,
Yep.
yep.
So that was
Chair's report's
gone.
gone.
Professional
Yours?
staff appointments, no. Extracurricular contracts, no. 100-point grading scale, we already got there. The one item I didn't add to the agenda, unfortunately, because I was gone last week, and the town is meeting tomorrow night, was the school item. I think we could probably put it on here. I'd like to see it warned. How do you guys feel about putting that out to the voters, though? Because of the land out back, the 20 acres. So we got the 100-point scale
Are we
in
gonna
here, but-
talk, are you someone gonna talk, select board's tomorrow night, it's
Yeah.
at the fire department because they
And so
don't have.
Red
the room.
Grover's looking for an answer as to what he's gonna do with it. My thought was to enter into a contract with him that says that leads it to the voters, which basically is a contingent, open-ended contract anyway. So I wasn't sure how you guys.
Like I said, I think either way it has to be separate because the voters have to approve the selling or buying of land or whatever.
Yeah, it's gonna be broken out. It's just a question of whether we wanna try and approve that tonight without being on the agenda. Or do we wanna send Mike over, which was what my plan was, is to have Mike speak to the
I
select board
would one more
tomorrow night.
time, yeah, speak with them because you're gonna have some of the people saying that should be a town thing, not a school thing. Vice versa, because they're the ones that originally started that because they wanted that separate path up to Northwood.
Yep.
So, I mean, because they had the grant money and all of that. So, as far as my conscience goes, to make sure, maybe they'll put it on. I still think they have a better chance of getting it approved, even if it's on a separate
Yep.
item, whatever.
Article.
Yep, so I'd like
Well,
to
on
see
town
that.
side, or whether
Right.
it's school and town, it's looking to me that I
I see what
think
you're
it should be
saying.
joint anyway, and the only reason I say that is, there's some questions about our field being moved back there. In fact, some field restoration, I believe, is being planned for the spring that board members should be aware of, that this field is gonna be pushed, and Byron was planning on using all the overburden from this job up to 10 or 20 loads, and then putting it back on the end of the field and even pushing back, which is gonna put us at the boundary back there.
Right.
So any expansion plan, we need to go over the boundary, so if we just had it in the town's hand, and then every time we need to make that, if we need to go
Well,
another
I
10
just think it's
feet.
cleaner if personally,
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's cleaner if the town owns it. I just feel the town in its entirety should own the land. I don't,
Well, what if we did it jointly with the
It's
school?
like-
What would be wrong with that?
well, it's gotta go on one budget or the other. It can't go on both. We can't mix them, remember?
No, but what I say, say we have, let's just pick a number, $30,000. So there's no reason we can't do 15 town and 15 school,
Yeah, but what if one passes, one doesn't?
you know? So, and
So,
the other thing is to keep in mind, I'm not quite sure the school or the select board, you know, in my opinion, just in reading them while I was there, you know, what I was told, and it was on the record, was, I believe, if I'm recalling correctly, was the town would only be interested if they can get that trail approved, and that would be to go to the landowners.
Right.
I've only heard from one to date now. One of the landowners out back, the one that got in touch with me was Mr. Goodrich. The Warwicks did not get in touch with me, and Mike Rowe did speak with the Therios. And so,
I
but I
think
haven't.
the only holdup before was the Grover property.
Oh, no. When I was over there at the select board a couple months ago,
Yeah.
they said they were only interested if that trail is approved, so I would have to go to the owners, get them to agree to easements, and this trail can come
Right.
through here. And the truth is, I can't
But they
bundle,
can
I
put
can't
it-
do it backwards like that. I
No,
can't.
no. Well,
get
they,
stuff approved for
they
land I
could
don't
if,
own and
you know,
come
to
up with-
purchase it if whatever, and they have the resources to make sure they can touch base. They have employees that can do that where we don't.
Yep. Well, I think it would be good for Mike to get a weather report, and then we put it then on the January, because if,
Agenda.
Yep,
if they
and just see
decide
what's going
to,
on.
again, if they decide to punt with it, I don't think the school should let that go, at least without putting it to the voters, because
Yep.
otherwise, the select board's gonna leave it on the market for a year or two before they get to it. If it
No, I
misses
know,
this
no,
cycle-
one or the other. I mean, either, you know, it'd be nice if they do it.
Because if you're gonna do the purchase of the land, we're gonna need to write an article.
No, I know.
Yeah.
It has to be either way, them or
Yeah.
us, it has to be done that
Yeah.
way. Which is fine, to just
Mm-hmm.
feel them out. We have time.
Yep, and I think that's important, so I'll send Mike an email tonight, that while he's over at the select board to. All right,
That was the
perfect.
quiet.
Ice rink and storage, I think we're good there. The ice rink's coming along great, and, I think there's gonna be a use for it no matter what. I've heard some criticisms around there that, you know, we're wasting money. There's no taxpayer dollars that have gone into this. Corinne Rodriguez done an unbelievable job of raising almost
And
$20,000.
that's the thing we just have to keep hitting home is
Yep.
we have no tax dollars going into this whatsoever.
Yep,
Wonderful.
and I think she's at 20,000 in services
And more,
even maybe
yeah.
even more,
More
20,000
now, I
in
think.
services and cash.
Yep.
And, but we were chatting about it, and we're really hoping, and I think it's clear out there, that someone's gotta pick this up like Mr. Fish did back in the 80s. That's the reason it faltered, you know, after, my understanding is that after he passed away, it went down. But otherwise, the uses for the shed are out there, whether we end up converting that and use it for cross-country skiing. You know, say the hockey doesn't take off, gets so
no, we
difficult,
could just-
labor, manpower.
We'll just
then
use it for the maintenance shed.
but you have it around, I think with the conversion, it's got a heat pump out there now.
I know.
Now it's got a heater. We're not gonna be heating up the lawnmower out there. And, so whether that be cross-country skiing, whether, yep, and, or, you know, the nice thing is we build it here at the school and we hope someone comes along and picks it up, so we don't know if someone's gonna step up to that plane and say, this is really cool, I like this, or a group, you know, cause they're gonna make do where they can with kids and
Yep.
adults, and, you know, Byron's gonna come down and plow, but someone's got a shovel, and it's gonna be an interesting process that they're gonna learn over the next 10 weeks, and, trying to keep the snow off this thing, and, but either way, I think the school has a use for it, and it looks 1,000 times better than it ever has out there. I mean, it literally is night and day. And have you been out there to see it, Lynn?
I have,
Yep.
I have.
And, so
The whole
anyway.
thing is, you know, and it is.
But before it was just a dream, now it's a reality, so if someone then takes it a little step further, now it's available for them to do that versus finding an old shed that was rotted out there and say, make all that happen. I mean, it's gotten this far, so it's taken years to get here, but I think it's a great thing. So, next meeting, January 13th, 2020. I have it down on the agenda for 6. Any issues with anyone? It's Monday, January 13th at 6 o'clock.
Nope,
No issues?
none.
Yeah,
No more work issues.
she's
I'm all
gonna come
set.
early.
Good. Beautiful. And then, I can't think anything else. I was just hoping to have maybe 5 minutes on an executive session regarding a personnel, issue. And then otherwise, my thought is we'll just make a motion to go into executive session. We cancel, and we'll just adjourn out of the executive session, let everybody else get on their way if unless anybody has anything. Anything else? All right, so I'll just make the motion to make it easy. Motion to go into executive session, for personnel issues, contract matters, and, possibly student information. But those will be the, categories I'll make the motion under for
Second.
executive session. Seconded by Lynn. All those in favor?
Sorry.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
You
Perfect.
finally open your mouth and I step.